Caring Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QNReview. That is @CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@QNreview.com. That is INFORMATION@CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 5th of September, from the news section, Glasgow Council workers agree deal as unions accept pay offer. Article written by senior reporter Amanda Keenan. Glasgow's council workers could be set to see a rise in their wages after voting to accept a revised pay offer. GMB Scotland says its members have today given them the green light to accept the deal put forward last month after the suspended plans for industrial action across a number of local authorities. The union paused 8 days of strikes in waste and cleansing to allow members to vote on the new terms. The offer from COSLA, which represents Scotland's councils, will see a 3.6% increase for all grades, with a rise of £1,292 for the lowest paid, equivalent to 5.6%. Keir Greenaway, GMB Scotland's senior organiser in public services, described the offer as a significant improvement on what came before, when it was tabled last month for members to consider. The Glasgow Times understands that both GMB and Unite this morning rubber-stamped the deal after receiving the results of their ballots, but that an agreement is still to be reached with Unison. Union bosses say that Scotland's council leaders have shown a lack of realism during months of needless drawn-out bartering. Chris Mitchell, GMB's convener of cleansing, said, "Our members have been standing on picket lines on and off for 3 years to get to this point, and I'm glad we've reached an agreement at last. Our slogan now is don't delay, pay today. Energy prices are going up in October and Christmas is just around the corner, so our members just want to see the agreement signed and the extra money in their October pay. People are realistic and realise there's only so much cash in the pot. We think the uplift people will see from this negotiation is fair, and we want to see that right away. For months, we have been forced to waste time discussing a series of lowball offers when it was already clear for the Scottish Government needed to be at the table. We are finally at a figure that is equitable, and we are just glad to have this deal done." Chair of Unison Scotland's Local Government Committee, Colette Hunter, stated, "Unison is by far the largest union in local government, and our members have overwhelmingly, 86%, rejected COSLA's pay offer. We have strike mandates in councils across Scotland. Unison Scotland's Local Government Committee will be meeting in the coming days to determine our next steps." GMB members in Glasgow City Council's waste and recycling depots were due to begin an 8-day strike last month, before bosses put it on ice as a gesture of goodwill. The action would also have involved councils in Aberdeenshire, Aberdeen City, East Ayrshire, City of Edinburgh, East Bartonshire, Falkirk, Fife, Glasgow, Highland, Inverclyde, Midlothian, North Lanarkshire, Orkney Islands, Perth and Kinross, Renfrewshire, South Lanarkshire, Stirling and West Lothian. COSLA have been approached for comment, and that article was written by Amanda Keenan. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 5th of September, from the news section, exclusive. Glasgow man made racist remarks after an argument with neighbour. This article is an exclusive by our court reporter. A man made racist remarks about his neighbour after an argument broke out. Campbell McCowan, 61, from Knightswood, was sentenced at Glasgow Sheriff Court recently after pleading guilty to behaving in a threatening or abusive manner by shouting and swearing. He also accepted that he uttered racially offensive remarks and threats of violence, as well as brandishing a knife. The court heard that McCowan, who had been in his home in Great Western Road at around 11 p.m. on January the 11th, 2024, when he fell asleep whilst cooking, causing a fire alarm to go off. At this time, one of his neighbours went to his door because of the alarm. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service was called to the property, and, on arrival, they could hear Mr McCowan and the neighbour arguing loudly in the hallway. A member of the fire crew then heard McCowan say, "Tell that black B*** D next door I'm going to murder him." An argument took place and the police were called. McCowan was cautioned and charged, to which he made no reply. Addressing McCowan's lawyer, Sheriff Vincent Lunny stated there was no excuse for her client's language. He said, "Regardless of the background, there's no excuse for the language, none at all. He fell asleep while cooking whilst under the influence of alcohol. I dealt with the neighbour who was also prosecuted for his side of the argument, although he pleaded to a much less serious offence. This has happened before with the fire alarm. Neighbours are frightened they're going to get burned out of their homes if he keeps making food while he's not capable." McCowan's defence solicitor replied, "He doesn't drink in excess and he's up early every morning. There were issues with the fire alarm previously. Some of his neighbours' partners have difficulty exiting the property. He knows that. There have been no issues with the fire alarm since January this year. He doesn't have any previous convictions and this was his first offence." Sheriff Lunny fined McCowan £320. And that article was an exclusive by our court reporter. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 5th of September, from the news section, John Swinney makes admission on free school meals for all pupils. Report by Stuart Patterson. John Swinney confirmed the Scottish Government will not be able to deliver free school meals to all primary school pupils by 2026. The First Minister said that the budget had been eroded by successive Westminster governments and it would not be possible. He was asked by Douglas Ross, Conservative leader, during First Minister's questions in Holyrood. Ross had asked if the Scottish Government would deliver on its commitment to give free school meals to all primary pupils by the end of the current Parliament. Swinney said free school meals would be available for all children in primary 1 to 5 and those in P6 and P7 who are in receipt of the Scottish Child Payment. He added, "We will not be able to roll out eligibility on a universal basis to all P6 and P7 pupils." The First Minister said the reason was the Scottish budget had been eroded by the UK government. He said the cumulative effect of inflation was 18.9% over 2 years. This, he said, was the result of actions of a Conservative government that Douglas Ross supported. The Scottish Greens also condemned the decision to scrap the commitment to free school meals for all pupils. Lorna Slater, Greens co-leader, said the commitment was secured by the Greens when they were partners in government. She said, "As soon as the Greens are out of the room, the Scottish Government ditches the policy." Swinney responded that the government was dealing with the persistence of the austerity agenda. He said he thought he had seen the back of it with the Tory government. The First Minister added the government was having to find £800 million to meet public sector pay claims. He said that money would increase wages and family incomes, lifting people out of poverty. He added, "Incomes are increasing because of above-inflation pay deals. We can't spend that money twice," adding, "We are still bound by the shackles of austerity." And that report was by Stuart Patterson. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 5th of September, from the news section, MSPs in call for crackdown on dangerous off-road and e-bikes, by Stuart Patterson. MSPs have called for action in Scotland to crack down on the dangerous use of off-road bikes and motorised bikes. Bob Doris, SNP MSP for Maryhill and Springburn, made the call during a debate in Holyrood. Because regulation of the bikes is reserved to Westminster, he called for a working group to be set up in Scotland to deal with issues like policing and enforcement while lobbying for the law to change. It is hoped that a bill at Westminster introduced by former MP Anne McLaughlin will be taken up by the government to have off-road bikes registered. Following the death, however, of 79-year-old David Gow, in the Parkhouse area of North Glasgow, Doris said the Scottish Government must also act when it can. He said, "I ask our Scottish Government to ensure that a working group is established on the matter in Scotland. Many aspects of road safety, education, policing and enforcement are devolved. I am sure that Police Scotland and the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities could be key partners in any working group, along with various other organisations. If there is to be UK legislation, such a group would help to inform the Scottish context in that regard." While recognising there are many legitimate riders and uses for the bikes, he outlined the risks posed by irresponsible riders. He said, "I will be blunt. There is a third group, those who, for whatever reason, do not seem to care. Sometimes a lone rider can cause nuisance or danger. At other times they're in larger groups, which can increase the risk to the community's safety and can also be hugely intimidating." Other MSPs echoed his concern and called for action. Annie Wells, Glasgow Conservative MSP, said, "Where I live, I can look out of the window every night and see quad bikes and unlicensed motorbikes jumping about with no lights on them, with riders wearing no helmets just zooming about the place. They have no regard for public safety or for the safety of any other vehicle users." She said it is a problem, particularly in parts of Glasgow. Wells added, "Aside from being a public nuisance, the problem has often resulted in criminal offences being committed and in people being hurt or even, in the case of Mr Gow, being killed." Jim Fairley, Minister for Agriculture and Connectivity, responded for the Scottish Government. He said, "The Scottish Government takes very seriously the misuse of off-road vehicles, and we will continue to work with Police Scotland and local partners to seek to eradicate that misuse. I am very open to establishing a working group in conjunction with my colleague Siobhan Brown, Minister for Victims and Community Safety, and others, to try to find solutions in order to prevent another unnecessary tragedy such as the one that was suffered by the family of David Gow." And the article was written by Stuart Patterson. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 5th of September, from the news section. Police raced to Glasgow's HMP Barlinnie amid two incidents. Report by Ben Waddell. Cops raced to HMP Barlinnie in Glasgow twice in the space of hours amid two incidents last night. Originally, officers were called to a report of a drone flying near the Slammer in the East End at around 11:45pm on Wednesday, September the 4th. 999 crews then rushed to the area. After that, cops claimed they discovered several items including suspected drugs in an area of open ground near Gartcraig Road. Police then searched for a man who was acting suspiciously in the area. Officers believe the man may have been using an e-bike, but they couldn't track him down. However, a short time later, cops received a further report of a drone flying near the city's Nick for a second time. They were alerted to the new incident at around 2:25am on Thursday, September the 5th. Emergency crews raced back to the area where they discovered a device and a quantity of suspected drugs near the prison grounds. Now, the force has revealed they are following a positive line of inquiry after both of the incidents. Police also said they are working with the Scottish Prison Service while they are urging anyone with information to come forward. During the situation, residents in the local area took to social media to question what was going on. Several reported hearing and seeing a police helicopter shortly after midnight. One said, "Something's going on next to Barlinnie Prison. The police helicopter has been circling for the past 20 minutes. A second added, "Helicopter around Ridley, spotlight shining down." Meanwhile, a third said, "What's going on with the police helicopter?" Inspector Max Shaw said, around 11:45pm on Wednesday, September the 4th, police received a report of a drone flying near to HMP Barlinnie. Officers attended and recovered a quantity of items, including suspected controlled drugs, in an area of open ground near Gartcraig Road. Searches were carried out for a man seen acting suspiciously in the area who may have been using an e-bike. However, there was no trace. Following a further report of a drone flying near HMP Barlinnie at around 2:25am on Thursday, September the 5th, a device and a quantity of suspected controlled drugs were subsequently recovered near the prison grounds. With positive lines of inquiry, We are working with our partners in the Scottish Prison Service as an investigation is carried out. We would encourage anyone with information to call police on 101, quoting incident 4296 of September the 4th. Alternatively, you can call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. That's Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111 if you wish to remain anonymous. A Scottish Prison Service spokesperson said, "Any attempt to bring illicit substances into our establishment, including by a drone, poses a significant threat to the health and well-being of those in our care, and we will use all technological and intelligence tools available to prevent this wherever possible. We continue to work with Police Scotland and other partners to take action against those who attempt to breach our security." And that report was by Ben Waddell. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 5th of September. From the news section, violent abuser jailed after bugging ex-partner's home. Report by Kirsty Feerick. A violent abuser has been jailed after bugging his ex-partner's home. Darren Querns, from Glasgow, will be behind bars for 27 months after planting listening devices to spy on the woman after the relationship broke down. The 35-year-old inflicted unimaginable trauma as he admitted physically and verbally abusing the victim between 2016 and 2023. He also obsessively checked her mobile phone and social media accounts, questioning her about who she had been in contact with in a bid to control her. After the relationship ended, the victim's mother received a Facebook message from Querns stating he had 2 recordings of her daughter in February 2023. One of the clips contained audio of the mother having a private phone conversation with her daughter, which took place when Querns was not present. He went on to reveal information that had not been disclosed to him, that had only been spoken about in the privacy of the woman's home. In July that same year, the victim went on to plug a phone charger into a wall socket when she saw a static red light, which she found unusual and had not seen before. The following month, Querns contacted his victim and made a comment that indicated he had heard a private conversation she had recently had. She immediately thought of the wall sockets and suspected her former partner was recording her conversations. She unscrewed the wall socket in the living room and found a device which connected into the live mains and contained a SIM card. The victim found a further 2 devices in the property before contacting the police. Officers discovered 4 devices installed in various wall sockets around the property. The devices were activated if the sound went above a certain decibel level, if it received a text message, or if it received a phone call. DNA matching Querns was found on 2 of the devices. Officers found similar SIM cards at his home during a subsequent search. We previously reported how officers raided Querns' flat in the city's Shettleston on August 8, 2023, after the devices were discovered. The street and the surrounding area was put into lockdown after hazardous material was allegedly located in the property. Around 80 people were forced out of their homes overnight in the city's Shettleston while an explosive disposal unit dealt with the matter. Querns faced a charge of possession of an explosive substance which included wires, circuit board batteries and explosive powders. It was claimed this was done with intent by means to endanger life or cause serious injury to property or enable people to do so, but a not guilty plea was accepted by the Crown in July. Today, he was issued with a non-harassment order banning Querns from contacting or attempting to contact his victim, was also granted for an indefinite period. It comes after one occasion, Querns climbed the drainpipe at his victim's home and watched her through her kitchen window before climbing back down after being seen. In April 2022, during a stay at the Hotel in Glasgow, Querns began shouting and swearing at his victim before throwing items around the room. Drinking glasses smashed onto the floor and bed with some of the shards striking her victim. She suffered a cut to the back of the head, which had glass in it along with other injuries. Moira Orr, who leads on homicide and major crimes for the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service, said, "Darren Querns is a violent and controlling abuser who has inflicted unimaginable trauma. His calculating actions left his victim in fear in her own home where she should have been safe. We hope this conviction brings some comfort to all those affected by his despicable behaviour. COPFS remains committed to prosecuting crimes of violence and domestic abuse, which are an unacceptable blight on our communities. I would encourage all victims or witnesses of similar offending to come forward, report their experiences and seek support. And that report was written by Kirsty Feerick and read by me, Ian McKenna.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 9th of September. The scandal of a huge rise in waiting times for NHS dentistry treatment. An article written by Stuart Patterson. Patients in Glasgow are waiting up to 2 years for dental surgery treatment, according to official figures. The average waiting time for some dentistry in Greater Glasgow and Clyde NHS area is 40 weeks, which has shot up from 17 weeks 4 years ago. The longest wait for treatment in the Health Board area is 105 weeks for oral inpatient surgery, a huge increase from 36 weeks in 2020. The figures were obtained by the Scottish Labour Party, who said it was a scandal. Across Scotland's health boards, the longest average wait was in Lothian, where patients are waiting 52.9 weeks, and the longest wait was 121 weeks. The longest wait was in Highland, where a period of 212 weeks was recorded. Labour said that people are waiting 7 times longer than they were 4 years ago. Paul Sweeney, Glasgow Labour MSP, is the party's spokesperson on dentistry. He said, "Being in pain every time you eat a meal or try to talk is agony for a few days, let alone months or years, but that's the reality for many of those unfortunate enough to be on the waiting list for dental surgery." The SNP has presided over a rot in local NHS dentistry over the past 17 years, and it needs to brush up its act fast. A Scottish Labour government will end this creeping two-tier health system and ensure that patients can get the treatment they need. In Lanarkshire, patients were waiting 35 weeks on average last year, while in 2019-2020 it was only 5 weeks. In Lothian and Dumfries and Galloway, people waited more than 4 times as long compared to 4 years prior, and one patient in Grampian was forced to wait 4 years for surgery. The Glasgow Times attempted to contact the Scottish Government for comment. NHS, Greater Glasgow and Clyde, did not wish to comment on the figures. An article written by Stuart Patterson. Glasgow Times Politics on Monday the 9th of September. Fergus Ewing slams the treatment of Alex Salmond. An article issued by the Glasgow Times news desk. A veteran SNP politician has called for transparency over the Scottish Government's treatment of Alex Salmond, branding it the scandal of our times. Fergus Ewing, MSP, said that there should be accountability regarding the hounding of the former First Minister, after it emerged a civil servant faces a police probe into evidence given at a Scottish Parliament committee. Mr Salmond, who is 69, was cleared of a litany of sex offences against 9 women at the High Court in Edinburgh in March of 2020. The ex-SNP leader took legal action against the Scottish Government in 2019, when £512,000 was awarded, and again in November 2023. Mr Salmond set up the rival Alba Party in 2021, claiming that he was subject to a conspiracy by former colleagues. Mr Ewing pledged to probe and question the circumstances if and when Holyrood gains parliamentary privilege, which was used in the House of Commons by Tory MP David Davis to address the issue in 2021. In June, Mr Davis said that the investigatory powers of the Scottish Parliament should be strengthened due to failure of democratic accountability. Mr Ewing claimed concerted action by a group of civil servants and special advisers, allegedly in a bid to get Mr Salmond prosecuted and jailed, was the greatest political scandal of my lifetime. He criticised a culture of heavily redacted Scottish Government documents as a cover-up and claimed that at least 6 senior officials in the Scottish Civil Service and current or former special advisers had questions to answer. Mr Ewing added, if in Holyrood we cannot get to the bottom of the hounding of a former First Minister, we frankly do not deserve to be a Parliament. What happened was scandalous and wrong. The courts may yet determine whether it was also illegal. A Scottish Government spokesperson said it would not be appropriate to comment on live litigation. An article issued by the Glasgow Times news desk. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 9th of September. A homeless charity is hit with an enforcement notice due to lack of planning permission. An exclusive article written by Nicole Mitchell. A homeless charity in Glasgow has been issued with an enforcement notice to cease unauthorised use of the building due to not having the correct planning permission. Homeless Project Scotland has been operating at 67 Glasford Street since December last year, running a soup kitchen, advice surgeries and overnight shelter from the building. Set up in 2019 and run exclusively by volunteers, the charity was given use of the building by the owner, Barry Cushley, who said earlier this year that the service is desperately needed. However, Glasgow City Council has now issued both Homeless Project Scotland and Mr Cushley with a notice to stop using the building as a shelter, as no planning application has been submitted for a change of use. The notice will take effect from October the 18th, with Homeless Project Scotland having 3 months from that date to comply with the notice if there is no appeal. A spokesperson for the council said it remains open to the charity submitting an application for a change of use. Colin McInnes, chair and founder of Homeless Project Scotland, has called the notice appalling and says the charity currently has architects working on a planning application. He said, "The council has issued the charity with a notice to close the night shelter. We will be appealing this decision. The reason is we have not applied for planning permission for a change of use to allow people to be staying overnight. Unfortunately, you cannot plan for a housing emergency. We have architects working on it and putting together the application, and the council knows that, but they still want to shut us down." Glasgow was able to come together and open the Louisa Jordan Hospital during the COVID emergency, but not to allow a lifeline shelter for homeless people. On the one hand, Glasgow has a declared housing emergency and the council can't cope with a number of homeless people. But on the other hand, they want to shut down an emergency shelter that is providing somewhere safe for people to stay. These are people who have been refused accommodation by the council, and without our shelter, they would be on the streets and could face death. It is appalling. However, a spokesperson for Glasgow City Council said there has been a lack of engagement from the property owner, and there is no evidence to show that the shelter complies with Care Inspectorate national standards. They said the occupants have not submitted a planning application for a change of use, despite efforts to encourage them to do so. There has also been a lack of engagement from the property owner. Therefore, there has been no opportunity to scrutinise how the building is operated to ensure that it is safe, well managed and satisfies the relevant policies. There's also been no evidence provided to show that it complies with Care Inspectorate national standards. There have been multiple crime reports and complaints linked to these premises since it began to be used as an unauthorised homeless shelter in December of 2023. Based on the available evidence, fears from residents and businesses that the unauthorised use of the building is directly contributing to antisocial behaviour and crime in the area appear to be well founded. To protect the safety and well-being of the community, and given the lack of engagement from the occupants to progress with a planning application, we believe it's necessary to take action to cease the unauthorised use of these premises. It remains open for the occupants to submit a planning application for assessment through the usual process. Last week, residents discussed their concerns with the charity's operation at Glasford Street at the Merchant City and Trongate Community Council meeting. One resident stated that they had seen fighting and urinating in the street outside the shelter, while another said their main frustration was due to the charity not applying for planning permission. Local people and businesses have not had a chance to comment on the plans. Concerns were also raised for the safety of people staying overnight in the building, as they believe there is only one entrance to the building, which they called shocking. One person commented, "If you were a business and acting in that way, you'd be shut down." Councillor Angus Miller agreed the same rules should apply to all organisations regarding having the correct planning permission in place. An exclusive article written by Nicole Mitchell. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 9th of September. Hotel giant targets new recruits, aged 50 and over. An article issued by the Glasgow Times news desk. Hotel chain Hilton is targeting those aged 50 and over who are keen to get back into work as it aims to fill hundreds of job vacancies. The firm, which already employs dozens of staff at its busy hotel in Glasgow city centre, currently has almost 400 vacancies at its sites across the UK. Hilton has said its research suggests a growing number of over 50s are considering changing careers or their working hours to facilitate travel plans. The new jobs include roles in food and beverage, front office, housekeeping, culinary, engineering and events. According to the company, its research found that many workers over the age of 50 cite burnout from their current office-based role as the main driver for looking for a change of job. Steve Cassidy, Senior Vice President and Managing Director at Hilton, said, "With most working lives stretching through several decades, people are increasingly exploring a second career later in life. This growing trend is leading to an upsurge in demand for roles that offer something wholly different, and hospitality has a role to suit every path, whether that's more flexibility to travel, a more active working life away from a traditional desk job, or a pathway back into work after a period of looking after family members." An article issued by the Glasgow Times news desk. Glasgow Times on Monday the 9th of September. Lifestyle. Glasgow actor to take part in a new series of Celebrity SAS, Who Dares Wins. An article written by Rebecca Newlands. Glasgow actor John Barrowman has been announced amongst the cast members for the new series of Celebrity SAS, Who Dares Wins. The Doctor Who and Torchwood star, who is from Mount Vernon, will feature in the 6th series of the Channel 4 reality show. Celebrities take part in SAS winter warfare training in the South Islands of New Zealand, and they're not eliminated but culled by the directing staff or able to withdraw themselves. Those who remain at the end are declared the winners. Alongside Mr Barrowman will be Rachel Johnson, the sister of former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Reality star Pete Wicks, who previously competed on the 2022 edition of the show, will appear on the show at the same time as he appears on the BBC's Strictly Come Dancing. Mr Wicks was forced to withdraw during his first appearance on the show after breaking his ribs in the second episode of Series 4, which took place in Jordan. Speaking about his return to the show, he said, "After being medically withdrawn in Jordan, I felt like I hadn't given it my best, and that bothered me. So when I got the opportunity to go back, I jumped in, and I would do it again." Ms Johnson added, "This experience was much more than I was expecting. I mean, given how ghastly reality television can be, this was top-notch, really top-notch." Reality TV star Bianca Gascoigne, former England rugby captain Chris Robshaw, television presenter Cherry Healey, former professional boxer Anthony Ogogo, comedian Shazia Mirza, former Love Island contestant Georgia Harrison, reality star Bobby Norris and influencer Marnie Simpson will also join them on the show. The lineup will be completed by former Olympic gymnast Ellie Downey, comedian Tez Ilias, professional basketball player Ovi Soko and world heavyweight champion boxer Lani Daniels. Chief Instructor Billy Billingham will also return with his team of directing staff, Jason Fox, Rudy Reyes and Chris Oliver, and former Special Forces psychologist Dr. Alia Boyilova. The show will see contestants exposed to constant cold and wet as they undertake an array of SAS training exercises. Speaking on the new series, Mr Billingham said, "As our course progresses, the standards expected will never falter. From the very first second, the recruits will be expected to give 100%. Anyone not doing so will be gone before they've time to make their excuses. Our time is invaluable. We will not waste it on anyone who's not worthy." Series 6 of celebrity SAS Who Dares Wins will air on Channel 4 every Sunday and Monday from September the 22nd at 9 p.m. An article written by Rebecca Newlands. Glasgow Times on Monday the 9th of September. Lifestyle. Remaining Body Shop stores are rescued by an acquisition deal. An article written by Rosie Lewis. The Body Shop has been rescued from administration by a consortium led by British tycoon Mike Jatania, with remaining stores to continue trading. Mr. Jatania's investment firm Aurea announced the completion of the acquisition on Saturday, with Mr. Jatania and Charles Denton, former chief executive of beauty brand Molton Brown, to head the new leadership team. In a statement, Aurea said that the acquisition was its largest transaction to date, and it would steer the Body Shop's revival and reclaim its global leadership in the ethical beauty sector it pioneered. It's currently understood that there are no immediate plans to shut any of its 116 remaining UK stores. Mr. Jatania previously ran Lornamead, the owner of personal care brands including Lipsil, Woods of Windsor, Yardley and Harmony Hair Care, which he sold to rival Li & Fung for around £155 million more than 10 years ago. The Body Shop fell into administration in early February after previous forecasts for how much funding it would need to keep going proved to be too low. In the weeks that followed, administrators said that hundreds of jobs would be lost and dozens of shops would be closed. Stores did close at Braehead Shopping Centre, Glasgow Fort, Silverburn Shopping Centre and at Glasgow Central Station. Only the Body Shop in St Enoch Shopping Centre remains open. The business had employed about 1,500 store workers before the administration. The Body Shop was founded in 1976 by Dame Anita Roddick, trading out of a small shop in Brighton originally, and made its name selling cruelty-free fair trade products. Mr. Jatania said, "With the Body Shop we've acquired a truly iconic brand with highly engaged consumers in over 70 markets around the world. We plan to focus relentlessly on exceeding their expectations by investing in product innovation and seamless experiences across all of the channels where customers shop, while paying homage to the brand's ethical and activist positioning." Charles Denton, chief executive of the Body Shop, said, "We believe that there's a sustainable future ahead, and working closely with the management team, we aim to restore the Body Shop's unique, value-driven, independent spirit." An article written by Rosie Lewis. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 9th of September. A number of arrests made after hundreds gathered in Glasgow for rival protests. An article written by Morgan Carmichael. Arrests have been made after hundreds of people gathered in George Square on Saturday to take part in two rival protests. A gathering billed as a pro-UK rally on social media was organised to take place near the Cenotaph on Saturday afternoon, while a counter-protest was organised by Stand Up to Racism. The pro-UK rally was organised in the wake of riots in several towns and cities in England in July and August, which saw supermarkets and libraries torched and shops looted, and was publicised by far-right figures including Tommy Robinson. The disorder followed the tragic deaths of B.B. King, who was 6, Elsie Stancombe, who was 7, and Alice da Silva Aguiar, who was 9, who were killed on Monday, July the 29th, in Southport, while attending a Taylor Swift-themed dance class. Now, Police Scotland have confirmed that 2 people were arrested following the action in Glasgow. The force said that a 40-year-old man was arrested for a hate crime and a 20-year-old man was arrested for carrying an offensive weapon. A spokesperson said a proportionate policing plan was in place for a planned protest in George Square. A 40-year-old man was arrested for a hate crime and a 20-year-old man was arrested for carrying an offensive weapon. Inquiries remain ongoing. Officers contained a small group of people to engage with them, maintain public safety and minimise disruption. Containment is an approved tactic used by highly trained officers where a breach of the peace is taking place or is reasonably thought to be imminent. An article written by Morgan Carmichael. Glasgow Times on Monday the 9th of September. Opinion. Cutting the winter fuel allowance is reckless politics. A column written by Mike Daly. Cutting the winter fuel allowance for over 10 million pensioners strikes me as a reckless and reprehensible move by the new UK Labour government. In early 2023, Labour pledged to freeze the energy price cap. Its recent manifesto pledged to cut bills for good, although no specific timeframe was provided. We now know that the Ofgem price cap will rise next month by a further 10%, with the average household paying an additional £149 for gas and electricity each year. The winter fuel allowance was introduced by Labour in 1997 as a one-off payment each winter to help with fuel costs of those of state pension age, in addition to payments from the cold weather scheme. Older people were targeted due to their vulnerability to the cold and the greater likelihood of being on fixed incomes. The winter fuel allowance payment was generally paid automatically for those of state pension age in November or December at the rate of £200 or £300 for those aged 80 or over. The government's draft regulations, which will soon go before the House of Commons, would means test and restrict eligibility for the allowance for those in receipt of pension credit and certain passport benefits. Pension credit provides a minimum guaranteed income of £218.50 per week as a single person. The hypocrisy of all of this is that we'll have members of Parliament on almost £92,000 per annum voting on restricting the winter fuel allowance to those living on around £12,000 per year. And MPs can and do put all of their fuel bills on their expenses for a single property in London or their constituency, which taxpayers have to pay. Age Concern estimates that as many as 2 million pensioners who find paying their energy bills really difficult will be seriously hit by this cut. That includes those who miss out on pension credit because their weekly incomes are slightly too high for eligibility, often women who have a small occupational pension. Another group affected will be those with high energy needs because of disability or illness. Then we have the almost 1 million pensioners who don't receive pension credit, even though they are eligible. You have to apply for pension credit, and the low take-up with many social security benefits is a long-standing problem in the UK. The decision to cut the winter fuel allowance was made by the new Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, MP, and it was announced on the 29th of July, just over 3 weeks after the general election. There's been a dearth of public or parliamentary consultation or notice about this significant policy change. Last week, the House of Lords Secondary Legislation Scrutiny Committee published its report on the winter fuel allowance regulations and was highly critical of how the cuts are being rushed through by the government. The committee was unconvinced by the reasons given for the urgency attached to laying these regulations. In its view, it's poor practice to implement major policy changes during a parliamentary recess. The regulations were published on August the 22nd. The committee's primary concern is the regulations may cause potential inequalities between low-income pensioners claiming benefits and low-income pensioners not claiming benefits, and it's not clear whether the Department of Work and Pensions has assessed this risk. There can be little doubt that the government is rushing through a flawed policy. It has set eligibility for the allowance far too low and failed to consider how this ill-judged policy will impact those with low and modest incomes. A column written by Mike Daly. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 9th of September. Parents are angry as a primary school refurbishment is postponed indefinitely. An exclusive front-page article written by Nicole Mitchell. Parents have been left disappointed and angry after the planned refurbishment of their local primary school was postponed indefinitely. Eastern Bartonshire Council agreed in 2021 that Mulgai Primary School would undergo a full refurbishment due to the state of the building, which has water dripping from the ceilings, mushrooms growing inside the building, and black mould growing on the windows. However, parents now don't know when this will occur, as they've been told that the cost has increased dramatically and become unaffordable for the council. Karen Reid, head of Mulgai Primary Parent Council, says that the school is currently not a safe, healthy learning environment. She said, "The state of the building is having an impact on the children's mental health because it's so stressful." One parent told us their child feels quite distracted by the constant dripping. The school is performing so well, but the environment is inadequate. Mandy McCormick, Vice Chair of the Parent Council, added, "I felt really sad and disappointed because we were able to put up with some of the smaller issues, knowing it was going to be sorted, and now we feel quite angry." In 2013, parents were involved in a campaign to keep the school open after it was threatened with closure, and since then there have been discussions between the council and the Parent Council on how the building, which first opened in 1875, can be repaired. In 2019, the Parent Council had an independent survey of the building done, which found the work needed was substantial, with the Council agreeing in 2021 that it would undergo a complete refurbishment, with pupils decanted to another site during it. However, despite money being spent on plans, it's not known when it will go ahead, with Mandy saying the school is in a complete state of disrepair. She said, "In the intervening time between when the refurbishment was initially proposed and now, there has been no work done to the school. So all the repairs have been temporary." She continued, "Parents are hugely concerned that their small infant children are sitting in classrooms where there's water coming in on their heads, there's mushrooms on bathroom walls, and they're walking through halls covered in mould." Other issues that Karen and Mandy have highlighted include ceiling tiles coming down, water dripping into buckets in several classrooms, toilets flooding constantly, with a member of staff even having to stand by the door in case a child slips on the floor, and windows being painted shut, meaning that there is no ventilation. They also said that in 2019 a drain pipe fell off the building into the playground, although thankfully no one was there at the time. Young children find dark holes in the ceiling scary. Children are constantly moved to avoid drips. They come home smelling of damp, and some have been burned on the radiators because they are so hot. Another parent said that their son has had to use his inhaler every day since starting Primary 1, which they believe is due to breathing in mould and damp. Karen and Mandy also have children who are already in secondary school and say many of the issues were ongoing throughout their time at the primary school. The council said it would spend £300,000 carrying out repairs over the summer holidays, which parents say appears to amount to pieces of plywood having been nailed over patches of mushrooms and mould, with the water already coming in around it. We previously reported that the council is to write to the Scottish and Westminster governments to request additional funds to refurbish Mulgai and Bearsden primary schools and to rebuild Barmuldy Primary in Bishopbriggs. Anne Davey, who is the Chief Executive of Eastern Bartonshire Council, said, "Mulgai Primary School refurbishment project progressed to the pre-construction phase with full costing exercise and revised tendered costs completed and reported to the Council on August the 21st. Both UK inflation and global construction industry costs have increased substantially in recent years, and the updated cost for the project, including the costs of borrowing, have now greatly exceeded the initial estimate. This, combined with the ongoing challenging financial situation that local government is facing, means that it is not affordable at this time to progress to the construction phase. The project will now be paused until such times as either the council revenue budget can support the high level of additional borrowing, or the capital investment is increased to a level that would support the inclusion of the project within our capital programme. In the meantime, officers have been working through an agreed list of temporary cost-effective remedial works, and this list is currently being reviewed with the intention of undertaking more permanent repairs until such times as the full refurbishment project can be progressed. These works include repairs to the roof on both the upper and lower school buildings. Despite significant efforts over the first half of the year to repair the roofs, each building continues to experience localised water ingress during periods of heavy rainfall. Additional surveys are being carried out to identify how this can be further prevented, and officers are also assessing options and costs for the replacement of both roofs, which will be reported to the Council as soon as possible. A spokesperson for the Educational Institute of Scotland added, "The EIS has been working closely with members and East Dunbartonshire Council in the interest of maintaining safe health and safety standards in schools. Action must be taken to ensure that all buildings are well designed, properly built and soundly maintained to an extremely high standard. The safety, health and well-being of pupils and staff must be the top priority. This is not an area where corners or costs should ever be cut." An exclusive front-page article written by Nicole Mitchell. Glasgow Times, Politics, on Monday the 9th of September. SNP is urged to rethink scrapping free school meals for primary pupils. An article written by Morgan Carmichael. The SNP will be urged to rethink the decision to scrap free school meals for all primary pupils in Holyrood on Wednesday. John Swinney, the First Minister of Scotland, laid out his programme for government last week with a focus on child poverty, but reversed a commitment to universal free school meals made in the SNP manifesto at the 2021 Holyrood election. The manifesto pledged universal free school meals for all primary pupils, with free breakfast and lunch for all classes all year round, and Deputy First Minister Kate Forbes told BBC Radio Scotland it had not been ditched, but was contingent on funding being made available. Mr Swinney blamed the decision on the previous UK government and confirmed that free school meals will not be delivered universally to Primary 6 and Primary 7 pupils by 2026, but only to those eligible for the Scottish Child Payment in the same year groups. The Scottish Conservatives will use parliamentary business slots on Wednesday, a week after the announcement, to urge Mr Swinney to reverse it. Shadow Education Secretary Liam Kerr said the SNP had shamefully abandoned the poorest pupils and that his own party was the first to commit to the universal rollout of free school meals for primary pupils in 2020, which it continues to support. He said the decision flies in the face of the SNP's pledge to eradicate child poverty, and the Nationalist had repeatedly let down children. Mr Kerr called on fellow MSPs to back calls for them to deliver the pledge during a vote on Wednesday. He said John Swinney and the SNP have shamefully abandoned Scotland's poorest pupils by axing the universal rollout of free school meals in primary schools. We are using crucial parliamentary time this week, urging him to reverse that shocking decision. It's another example of how the SNP has repeatedly let down Scotland's children. John Swinney, as Education Secretary, personally made this promise to deliver free school meals to every primary school pupil in Scotland. By ditching it, it flies in the face of the SNP's plans to eradicate child poverty. I urge the SNP to do the right thing and deliver this pledge as promised. The Scottish Conservatives have been proud to stand on a similar pledge and continue to do so. If the SNP will not U-turn, then I call for MSPs from all parties to join the Scottish Conservatives and send the strongest possible message to the SNP in this vote on Wednesday and back the rollout of free school meals for all primary pupils. A Scottish Government spokesperson said, "The Scottish Government has consistently warned of the significance of the financial challenges due to prolonged Westminster austerity, the cost of living crisis and record high inflation, which has placed enormous and growing pressure on finances. That means that while we remain resolutely committed to the universal expansion of free school meals in primary schools, this will not now be fully completed by 2026. We provide free school meals to nearly 278,000 pupils in primaries 1 to 5, special schools and to those eligible up to S6, saving families around £400 per child per year. We will now expand provision further to those in primary 6 and 7 in receipt of the Scottish Child Payment." An article written by Morgan Carmichael.
From Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 10th of September. In Scottish news, Alex Salmond doubts he'll speak to Nicola Sturgeon again. This article is unattributed. Alex Salmond has said he seriously doubts he will ever be on speaking terms with his successor, Nicola Sturgeon, again. The pair formed the most formidable political duo of the devolution era when they served as First Minister and Deputy First Minister of Scotland between 2007 and 2014. but complaints about Mr. Salmon's conduct while in office, both to Scottish Government officials and to the police, led to a bitter split between them. Mr. Salmon successfully took legal action against the government for its handling of the investigation into him, while he was also cleared at the High Court in Edinburgh of allegations of sexual impropriety. A Holyrood inquiry into the handling of complaints against Mr. Salmon called both the former First Minister and Miss Sturgeon, who at this point was still serving in the role, to testify in 2 marathon sessions. Mr. Salmon accused those at the highest echelons of Scottish Government of a plot against him, something Miss Sturgeon called absurd. In 2021, Mr. Salmon launched the Alba Party, which has spent much of its existence criticising the SNP, headed by Miss Sturgeon, and subsequently 2 of her key allies in Humza Yousaf and John Swinney. Speaking in a BBC documentary, Salmon and Sturgeon, a troubled union, about fracturing of their relationship, Mr. Salmon said he was unsure it could ever be mended. "I don't really do hurt feelings much, but it's a big regret that Nicola and I are no longer on speaking terms," he said, "and I seriously doubt if it's going to improve. Now that's a great pity, because I did indicate that you shouldn't say anything is forever, but that's the way it looks, and that's just the way it's going to be. We'll just have to let the past take care of itself." Reflecting on her relationship with Mr. Salmon and its breakdown, Ms. Sturgeon, who unexpectedly resigned in 2023, said, "He was for a long time a very positive force in my life," adding, "But I think I had to learn how to be myself." Ms. Sturgeon also reflected on the long-running inquiry into the handling of harassment complaints by the Scottish Government, which criticised her government, saying she was in turmoil inside. The inquiry's final report found she had misled the inquiry over a meeting with Mr. Salmon in her home in 2018, where he was left with the impression she would intervene in the process if necessary. The then First Minister, however, was cleared of breaching the ministerial code and beat a vote to oust her. The saga around the handling of complaints against Mr. Salmon, which the Court of Session said was tainted with apparent bias, made the Scottish Government look incompetent, former First Minister Humza Yousaf said. The process led to Mr. Salmon being awarded more than £500,000. The 2-part series will be on BBC iPlayer from Tuesday, as well as being broadcast on the BBC Scotland channel on Tuesday and Wednesday. And that article was unattributed. From Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 10th of September. In Scottish news, man arrested after cops held day of action at HMP Lomos. This article is written by Ben Waddle. A man has been arrested after cops held a day of action in the HMP Lomos area. Officers alongside Scottish Prison Service held the day of action in the area of the Slammer on Thursday, August 29th. The force says it was aimed to help detect and deter illegal activity in the area. During it, a 52-year-old man was arrested and charged in connection with alleged road traffic offences. He was due to appear at Glasgow Sheriff Court on Friday, August 30th. On top of that, 3 men and a woman were reported in connection with alleged road traffic offences, and 1 woman was issued with a road traffic ticket. Meanwhile, another man was issued a recorded police warning for an alleged drugs offence. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, "This builds on our routine policing as we work to tackle criminality in and around prisons. We work closely with partners and members of the public to help keep our communities safe. I would urge anyone with information or concerns about issues in their area to come forward." Information can be passed to police via 101 or to Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111. A Scottish Prison Service spokesperson added, "We are committed to working alongside our Police Scotland partners to detect and deter illegal activity and keep our establishments safe and secure." And this article was written by Ben Waddle. From Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 10th of September. In Scottish news, lead singer of iconic band to play Glasgow for special tour. The article is written by Rebecca Newlands. The lead singer of an iconic band is coming to play a Glasgow venue to celebrate 40 years since their debut album. Frankie Goes to Hollywood took the music industry by storm when they released Welcome to the Pleasure Dome in 1984. The synth-pop group's iconic debut featured hits such as Relax, Two Tribes, and The Power of Love. Now, to mark 4 decades since the release, group frontman Holly Johnson is going on a special UK tour. The 64-year-old will visit the Glasgow Royal Concert Hall on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. He will also stop at Birmingham, London, Bath, Newcastle and Liverpool. Tickets will go on general sale on Friday, September 13th at 9:30 a.m. And this article was written by Rebecca Newlands. From Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 10th of September. In Scottish news, plans for brand new £18 million train station near Glasgow approved. This article was written by Rebecca Newlands. Plans for a brand new £18 million train station near Glasgow have been approved. The green light has been given on Balgray Station in Barrhead, which will be built on the Glasgow to Neilson line near the Balgray Reservoir. It is supported by an £18.3 million fund and will connect the existing community and housing development to the rail network. Network Rail has been working with East Renfrewshire Council and Transport Scotland, ScotRail and Storey Contracting to plan and design the new station. It will have 2 platforms connected by a footbridge with lifts, waiting shelters, cycle storage and ticket machines. There will be an 80-space car park for passengers with 10 charging points for electric vehicles. Footpaths and cycle paths will lead into the station and will easily be accessible for residents in nearby homes by walking, wheeling or cycling. As part of the build, a direct path from the station to Dams to Darnley Country Park will be created, allowing easier access for visitors arriving for and departing after a day out. Cabinet Secretary for Transport Fiona Hislop has welcomed the plans. She said, "This is a great example of integrating new public transport provision with a new housing development. Transport Scotland will be funding the operating and maintenance costs of the station. The new station will provide sustainable transport options, better connecting people to employment, education, leisure and business opportunities. We welcome this innovative plan for the delivery of a new station and would encourage other promoters to consider this approach." Jerry McQuaid, Capital Delivery Director, Network Rail, added, "A new railway station in this area of Barrhead will be transformative for people who don't currently use the train, and will also provide a cleaner, greener way to visit the green space and countryside in East Renfrewshire. We will work hard with our partners to deliver this new station for our customers and the wider community. We previously reported that in July, a lease was agreed which allowed Network Rail to take over council land on a 175-year deal to provide the car parking area at the station. A bus turning circle and stop off Springfield Road has already been provided by East Renfrewshire Council in anticipation of the station construction, prioritising transport interchange and enhancing the active travel network in the town. Network Rail submitted planning permission to the local authority in August. East Renfrewshire Council is providing £2.6 million towards the project, while around £15.7 million will come from the Glasgow City Region City deal. East Renfrewshire Council leader Owen O'Donnell said, "It's fantastic news that City deal funding has been approved for the new Balgray station in Barrhead. Since announcing the new name for the station and how plans were progressing, we've had a great response from residents who are excited about the delivery of a much-needed new public transport link. It's going to make a huge difference for our existing community in Barrhead, as well as for residents from the new housing developments, making it much easier to access jobs, education and services. It'll also make Dams to Darnley Country Park more accessible for visitors." Craig Lafferty, Operations Director at Storey Contracting Scotland, added, "Storey are really proud to be constructing this new station, which will bring significant benefits to the local community. Working in partnership with Network Rail and East Renfrewshire Council, this project will not only enhance the rail network, but also provide step-free access between platforms, making Balgray Station accessible to people of all mobility levels." And this article was written by Rebecca Newlands. From Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 10th of September. From the news section, warning as more workers could strike over Glasgow pay disputes. This article was written by Kirsty Feerick. A union is warning more workers could prepare to strike over pay disputes in Glasgow. Scotland's largest local government union is considering widening its strike ballot to more than 90,000 staff in councils and associated services over pay, Unison has confirmed. Currently, the strikes have been affecting school workers and cleansing staff, but now all council members of the union could take part in industrial action. The move comes after they overwhelmingly rejected COSLA's latest pay offer in a consultative ballot a week ago. The current offer from the employer organisation includes an hourly uplift of 67 pence or a 3.6% increase, whichever is higher. However, The union says this falls short of expectations given the 25% real terms pay cut over the past 14 years. Unison says it will take several weeks to set a firm timetable, but the intention is to ask all council workers it represents in Scotland if they are willing to strike over pay. Unison Scotland Local Government Committee Chair Colette Hunter said, "Thousands of council workers have overwhelmingly rejected causeless pay offer. They are demanding a fair increase to prevent their pay from consistently lagging behind, and to ensure their wage rise aligns with other sectors of the economy. They are outraged that the current offer falls significantly short of their pay claim and is well below the 5.5% being offered to their NHS colleagues." Unison Scotland Local Government Lead David O'Connor said, "Council staff provide essential services that keep society running. They are simply asking for a fair and equitable pay increase." Councils are currently in crisis. They face significant recruitment challenges as workers are expected to do more with fewer resources and lower wages. This situation places immense pressure on both the workers and the services they deliver. The only viable solution is to grant these dedicated staff the pay rise they rightfully deserve. And that article was written by Kirsty Feerick.
This is from the Glasgow Times on the 11th of September 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Concerns for forgotten Glasgow swimming pool which closed." This article was by Rebecca Newlands. Concerns are being raised about a forgotten Glasgow swimming pool which closed after a dangerous substance was discovered. Whitehill Pool in the city's Denniston has been shut to the public since December 2023, when reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete, RAAC, was found within the pool. Glasgow Life, which runs the pool, closed it and other sites across Glasgow due to the dangers the material poses. RAAC is considered a potentially dangerous material as it is less durable than concrete and is prone to collapse when wet as moisture soaks into its aerated holes. Several months on, members of Whitehill Swimming Club are among those who have raised concerns over when the pool will reopen. Elaine Law, a Whitehill committee member, told Glasgow Live, "We feel like Whitehill Swimming Pool has been forgotten about. We've not had an update for over 6 months. The last time we heard from Glasgow Life was on January 5th, when they said they would update us fortnightly. We've heard nothing since then. In the time it's taken for them to look at the RAAC problem and access the costs, they've fixed the school and other premises. Whitehill Secondary School was identified as having a RAAC in 2021. Following the closure of 100 schools and colleges in England due to RAAC, the council said they were carrying out a full investigation into their own sites. Whitehill Swimming Club is currently operating out of Springburn, but the group says this poses a problem with many children not being able to attend without transport from their parents and the reduced times the club can use the pool. The club has around 120 members, with a further 90 on a wait list. Elaine added, "Parents might allow a 10-year-old to go a few streets away to Whitehill on their own. They certainly wouldn't let them get the bus. We've applied for an extended let, but they say they have to spread the time across the board because there are fewer pools in Glasgow. The demand is huge for the club, and it's a massive worry that Glasgow Life might make the decision not to open Whitehill again. It would be devastating to both us and the community if that were to happen. It was so well used. Words can't describe how much it would mean to everyone to see it open again." A spokesperson for Glasgow Life said, "Consultant reports have confirmed that the RAAC in Whitehill Pool is high risk and options are being developed in line with this risk." Glasgow Life is reviewing these options with the Glasgow City Council, along with the required costs and delivery timescales. We will update users on the next steps when this process is complete. We previously reported that RAAC was discovered in Drumchapel Pool, forcing it to close so the substance could be removed from its changing village. The pool reopened earlier this week. This article is by Rebecca Newlands. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 11th of September 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Fashion brand to open in Silverburn and they're hiring." This article is by Rebecca Newlands. A Glasgow fashion brand will open its third store in Silverburn next month, and they're hiring. Designer streetwear label 40 Clothing, which has a flagship store on Royal Exchange Square in the city centre, is expanding to the south side by opening a unit in the shopping centre in October. Founder Gordon Harry Miller said he was buzzing to reveal the news, and added that he's hiring a new team to head up the Silverburn shop. He told Instagram followers, "We're hiring. We're buzzing to finally announce the opening of our third store in Glasgow's Silverburn this October. But that means we need a new team. We're currently on the hunt for members of all levels across full-time and part-time roles." The entrepreneur started 40 after being inspired by his son's drawing of a monster face, and it has since expanded into creating unique and experimental designs, loved by DJs, footballers, club goers and more. Customers shared their delight at the news of the expansion, with one saying, "Superb news." Another wrote, "Love this." A third added, "You guys always make me feel welcome when I come into the shop." 40 previously opened a second store at Glasgow Fort in 2022. Harry previously said, "We want to give everyone the choice to find us wherever suits them. 40 is for you, wherever you want to come see us." This article was by Rebecca Newlands. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 11th of September 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Glasgow Central Station set for £5 million remodel with new shops." This article was by Rebecca Newlands. New shops, a ticket office and a first-class lounge will be built at Glasgow Central as part of a £5 million remodel of the station. The work, which is set to get underway this autumn, will see the Avante West Coast ticket office relocate to a new facility at Caledonian Chambers next to platforms 1 and 2. This will include 2 welcome desks, more machines and user-friendly information screens. Meanwhile, its current office on Gordon Street will be converted into 2 retail units. Some shops in the station have been closed since the end of 2023 in anticipation of this remodelling, and the plans will see the layout of several existing shops changing. As part of the programme, existing tenants will relocate, new retail units will be created, and office accommodation will be refurbished. The project will also see the creation of a new step-free station reception, which aims to improve experiences for passengers using the facility. Staff will have handheld devices to help with any customer queries and have more of a visible presence in the station. Conor McLaughlin, the scheme project manager at Network Rail, said, "We are excited to be working in collaboration with Avante West Coast to deliver an improved passenger experience as part of our wider property upgrade at Glasgow Central Station. Not only will passengers benefit from Avante West Coast relocating to a new and improved ticket office and first-class lounge, a new step-free station reception will also open. We would like to thank passengers for their patience as we carry out work to allow these exciting upgrades to happen." Mark Green, Avante West Coast Station Manager at Glasgow Central, added, "We're looking forward to working with Network Rail Scotland on this exciting joint project. The relocation of both the ticket office and first-class lounge means we'll be closer to our customers on platforms 1 and 2. The new facilities will also provide a better experience by improving accessibility, making it easier to buy tickets and find journey information. Our current ticket office and first-class lounge will continue to operate as normal and will only transfer when the new premises are ready, ensuring continuity of service for our customers." This article was by Rebecca Newlands. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 11th of September 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Glasgow trains face disruption amid emergency incident." This article was by Ben Waddle. Glasgow trains face disruption amid an ongoing emergency incident. ScotRail has said due to 999 crews dealing with an ongoing situation, services via Lenzie in Eastern Barnshire will be subject to delays. According to National Rail, emergency teams are dealing with a passenger who has fallen ill at the station. Due to this, the firm has said services between Glasgow Queen Street and Croy may be cancelled or delayed. A spokesperson for ScotRail said, due to emergency services dealing with an ongoing situation, services via Lenzie will be subject to delay and alteration at this time. We have contacted the British Transport Police and the Scottish Ambulance Service for comment. This article was by Ben Waddell. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 11th of September 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads 10 Glasgow facts you really probably didn't know. This article is by Anne Fotheringham. Do you know how Glasgow's patron saint died, or that the city hosted the first Robot Olympics? The QI Elves, researchers on the hit TV quiz show, are bringing their award-winning podcast, No Such Thing as a Fish, to Glasgow. The Glasgow Times decided to put the collective brainpower of Dan Schreiber, James Harkin, Anna Tasinski and Andrew Hunter-Murray to the test to come up with 10 quite interesting, little-known Glasgow facts. They came up trumps. Here is what they found out. Number 1. John Logie Baird, the inventor of television, went to college in Glasgow. At one point, he tried to turn graphite into a diamond using electricity and managed to cause a blackout in the city. Number 2. The patron saint of Glasgow, St Mungo, is said to have died of shock after getting into a very hot bath. Number 3. The first ever comic strip, Speech Bubbles, was made in Glasgow in 1825. It appeared in the Glasgow Looking Glass and was called The History of a Coat. Number 4. Glasgow holds the world records for largest can-can, largest cotton bud, and most people covered in slime, one after the other, in 3 minutes. The Glasgow Times team would like to point out also that the city, and in particular the Glasgow Times, holds the Guinness World Record for the largest ever tea dance, which was hosted by us in George Square in 2010 as part of our health and fitness campaign, Glasgow's. Number 5. Glasgow was once voted the friendliest and the most dangerous city in the UK in the same year. Number 6. At the first Robot Olympics, held in 1990 in Glasgow, the English competitor was disqualified from the climbing event because it tried to mount the Russian robot. Number 7. The longest hangover in medical history belonged to a man from Glasgow. It lasted for 4 weeks and was reported on in medical journal The Lancet. Number 8. In 2008, the Met Police in London were forced to retract the claim that they were the oldest police force in the world, when it was pointed out that Glasgow had already had 3 different forces before the London Bobbies were created. Number 9. In 1842, Kirkpatrick Macmillan, the first person to ride a pedal bicycle, was fined for speeding while cycling to Glasgow. Number 10. The first ever international football match between Scotland and England took place in Glasgow in 1872. It ended 0-0, but Scotland might have had one had a late attempt on goal not landed on the tape, which was being used as a crossbar. This article was by Anne Fotheringham.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.